Hello everybody. In the current affairs this week, the week ended 7th of July 2024. This week on 3rd of July, the BSE SENSEX scaled a record high of 80,000. The BSE SENSEX was instituted in the year 1979 at 100. In this journey of 45 years, the BSE SENSEX has delivered a return of 15.9% compounded annual growth rate across this period of 45 years. This is a phenomenal appreciation. And if this rate of appreciation, even at 15%, continues in the next 5 years, then this Sensex would get doubled. So in 2029, it could be 1,60,000. Let us hope for the same. This appreciation expectation of 15% is not considered out of place by so many observers who are looking at India, for the reason that the way India is growing, the way Indian corporates, which are listed corporates, are growing, and to add to that, the rate of inflation in the country. So 15% growth of a benchmark in India for the coming 5 years is something which seems to be quite possible. This week also marked an end of an eventful 1 month. On 4th of June this year, the election results of Lok Sabha were announced and the new government got formed. And it is exactly 1 month since the results were announced, and the way the markets have appreciated, it is just phenomenal. The Nifty is up by 11%. The Nifty mid cap is up by 16%. Nifty small cap is up by 20%, and Nifty micro cap is up by 24%. When we look at sectors, the CPSE, the public sector benchmark, is up by 18%, and Nifty IT is up by 17%. This is all the appreciation which has happened in just last 1 month on the expectation that there is going to be a positive economic agenda which would be pursued by this new government, which is in place for another 5 years. Whenever the markets appreciate at this fast a pace in such a short time, there are all expectations that there could be a time correction or certain amount of correction in the market. So everybody who is involved or who is invested in the market should be prepared for this kind of an eventuality. Let us hope that the correction, if at all, is quite limited and stable. But these are the things somebody who is investing into the equity market should always be prepared for. The gains which has happened in the recent times might not be linear in the times to come. Looking at this week, rather the last week, the Nifty 50 was up by 1.3%, but Nifty mid cap was up by 2.5%, and Nifty small cap was up by 3.5%. The FIIs and DIIs both bought equally of around 7,000 crores each of Indian stocks. The Nifty IT benchmark was up by more than 4%. Nifty Pharma benchmark was up by more than 3.5%. Nifty PSU and Nifty private banks both the banks were unchanged, and comparison to the way the benchmarks moved, they were unmoved, so they were laggard sectors. When it comes to global commodities, Brent crude was unmoved, gold was up by 2.5%, but silver rose very sharply by around 7%. When it comes to the US markets, Nasdaq was on an upswing. It was up by 3.5%, and S&P 500 was up by around 2%. So this was all about the stock markets in last long 45 years, last 1 month, and last 1 week. Now, looking at some trends which are happening in the world today. When it comes to the global trends, China is a country which is something where people in India would be very much interested to look at. The way the country has developed in last 45 years, because its revolution of change started somewhere in the year 1980. Today, of what we see is that it is behaving like a developed economy. A company called IOL Chemicals, which is manufacturing API in India, made an announcement on the stock exchange that their API, which is the raw material for manufacturing drugs, has been approved by the Chinese drug regulator. So, India in earlier times used to import API from China. Today, China is not interested or is not manufacturing such APIs, but it is importing, and Indian drug manufacturers have to get it approved with the Chinese drug regulator. So this is the way the winds of change are blowing. It is behaving like a developed economy and like a superpower. We have always been talking that in India there has been a trend of premiumization. This week I came across through a news that in the domestic flights, on certain routes there is a class which is premium economy segment. Since 2019, that is since last 5 years, the fares on the economy class on these routes of the domestic flights are up by 25 to 30%, but the airlines have upped the fares of premium economy class by 100 to 125%. So this is the demand for premium economy and the trend of premiumization in our country. That is all for this week. Thank you.